A Supreme Court decision is letting those under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals policy, or DACA, stay for now. In this special edition of Valley View News, we take a hard look at immigration as it affects Dreamers. You'll see what CSUN, the community, and the government are doing about this political battle.
Hello, and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Corinne Hafuda.
And I'm Cameron Parrish. As the nation debates the Obama-era program known as DACA, or Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, the stories involving people falling under the program are wide and varied. Valley View News is dedicating today's show to the stories of those affected one way or another by DACA and the nation's immigration policies. A person falling under DACA was brought to the U.S. as a child by parents who came illegally. For them, DACA isn't a path to citizenship. But the DACA program sought to protect nearly 800,000 young people from immediate deportation.
The Supreme Court recently rejected the Trump administration's appeal to let DACA end. Now Congress has to vote in favor or against keeping the program. So for now, that means DACA recipients are temporarily protected from deportation. They can live and work legally in the U.S. People can also renew their DACA applications. But those who qualified for the program but failed to apply will not be protected. Los Angeles and its populations is a big part of the DACA and immigration debate.
To get a sense of how diverse the Los Angeles area is, U.S. Census figures show that nearly half of the 10 million people living here are Hispanic or Latino. 8% are African American and 14% are Asian. A quarter of the population is Caucasian. Research by the United We Dream organization says California leads the nation with DACA-eligible residents. Nearly 600,000 Californians are eligible for the DACA program. Only 200,000 of them were already approved.
Cal State Northridge has one of the largest populations of DACA students. The university has increased funding for programs that help DACA students. Valley View News reporter Ambar Rodriguez has more.
Cal State Northridge is home to the largest population of undocumented students in the CSU system, according to the school's Dream Center.
We offer a variety of different resources. Primarily, we know that one of the barriers that exists for a lot of our students is that initial point of contact.
Although the Dream Center is currently assisting approximately 1,500 undocumented students, a CSUN DACA recipient feels that the university was not as supportive as they appear.
The campus helps a lot with certain resources, but these resources weren't necessarily like campus. It's like, oh, here you go, by the grace of our hearts.
Last September, the leaders of the University Student Union gathered to find a solution on how they could be more supported. The USU finance team, Dreamers to be Heard, and the Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. William Watkins, created a board to help students financially.
We have this large sum of money, and I think that if we just allocate it in a certain way and work with the university, then we'll be able to support students for DACA renewals.
She says some funds will be left over. The union says it plans on using the remaining funds to help undocumented students. In Northridge, I'm Ambar Rodriguez for Valley View News.
The possibility of DACA protections going away can make some people anxious or even depressed. Valley View News reporter Rochelle Salas reports how the uncertainty can affect the mental health of some CSUN students.
Stressing about life and the future is common with students. Some might even feel anxious or depressed when thinking about it.
Their anxiety comes from the fact that they don't feel wanted, and when all they really want to do is just change and be better and do better for us.
Professionals say symptoms of anxiety and depression can be easy to spot, but some students might not understand them.
So some common reactions include things like difficulty sleeping, difficulty eating, also worrying a lot.
Doctors say students under DACA are likely to have anxiety or depression. They say the fear they have can take a toll on their mental health.
Why does this country not want me? Why do they want to kick me out? Why don't they want to help me? Instead, it's more like, oh, we want to get rid of you.
CSUN offers counseling and therapy to students. They can schedule appointments on campus where services are offered. The Klotz Health Center and University Counseling Services are just a few places students can receive help.
We are very, very fortunate to have on campus many skilled clinical psychologists, social workers, therapists at all levels, and even psychiatrists available.
There are many counseling services on campus that could help students dealing with anxiety or depression. If you are struggling with a mental illness, please don't be afraid to get help. In Northridge, I'm Rochelle Salas for Valley View News.
The uncertainty stretches beyond the college campus to the workplace. Leaders from more than 100 companies like Apple and LinkedIn are lobbying Congress to support DACA. Valley View News reporter Marissa Martinez spoke to a Silicon Valley high-tech worker who falls under DACA. She and her family are keeping an eye on the program's existence.
I am no different from anyone else. I am no different than any of the people I went to school with, the people that I went to college with. The only difference is that I just happened to be born on the other side of the border.
More than 800,000 DACA recipients fear for their livelihoods. 28-year-old Karen Ordaz is one of them. She's a successful media producer for a Silicon Valley high-tech company. Despite career success, Ordaz says she still stresses about her future, even though her company supports her staying in the U.S.
Being able to work for a company that supports you and understands what you're going through is incredibly powerful, and it makes me feel safe.
Ordaz says despite her corporate success, she's no different than any other dreamers. She signed up for DACA when President Obama introduced the program in 2012. While she has DACA status, her parents worry more daily. Their status remains undocumented. They fear an ICE raid in their home any day. The worst-case scenario for the family is everyone being sent back to Mexico, a place Ordaz hasn't lived since she was 2 months old.
We're constantly feeling the fear of being, in a situation where ICE is around and being arrested by ICE and then potentially being deported.
Ordaz's younger sister is the only family member with legal status. The toughest moment for Ordaz could be being separated from her little sister. The stress on her family is heartbreaking and challenging. Her little sister hopes to help the family status once she turns 21. She can sponsor her family's citizenship.
It's hard. It's hard to worry about yourself, but you're also worried about your parents, and you're also worried about your sibling that is here. She has her life here. This has been her home, and having to still worry about, will her family still be here?
In Silicon Valley, I'm Marissa Martinez for Valley View News.
Most national polls show widespread support and sympathy for people falling under DACA. Still, there are plenty of people against the program. Valley View News reporter Tori Isaac went to UC Berkeley to speak to opponents.
DACA was created by President Obama in 2012. The program gives minors who came to the U.S. illegally with parents temporary status. Some, like Berkeley College Republican Club leader Jonathan Chow, thinks being deported after spending your life in the U.S. is unfortunate. But he's a second-generation immigrant. His parents escaped communism in Cuba and China. He says DACA students should follow traditional immigration laws.
Went through all the paperwork, did the whole process, paid all the money, and became legal citizens. They learned the language, which they had never known before. I feel sympathetic, but then at the same time, it would be unfair. I agree with the decision by President Trump.
Chow says he's disrespected by some dreamers.
Like situations where they'll just come up to my face just because I'm a Republican, wearing or waving a Mexican flag in my face, or using it as a bandana because they're threatening me to do me bodily harm, and so they don't want their faces on camera or whatever, with a Mexican flag chanting, not my president. Like, if you really believe that, then okay, so here's your chance to go back to wherever you think that your country is.
Nevertheless, Chow sympathizes with dreamers. Still, he wants a better path to citizenship, like what his parents had.
My parents did what they needed to do legally. I lost relatives in the process. We've lost so much. My parents had to start all over.
He wonders why DACA students didn't take action earlier.
You have been in this country for a while now, your parents or whatever, and never in that time you expected or thought that you needed to become an actual American citizen. Like, why not? You know, this whole situation could have been avoided if they had just taken the appropriate steps, you know.
Some supporters of Trump's stand on DACA, like Jay Robles, would support a pathway to citizenship if a dreamer served in the military.
That does show your dedication and allegiance to this country.
Robles says the law should be followed.
I'm not saying that they're not welcome, but I do feel that they need to do what they're supposed to through the legal system in order to get their citizenship and work their way up the ladder.
As many DACA recipients are unsure of their future, others continue to stand by the law. In Berkeley, I'm Tori Isaac, Valley View News.
President Trump blames Democrats for the lack of progress on saving DACA. He spoke at the CPAC conference last week.
The Senate Democrats and the House Democrats have totally abandoned DACA. They don't even talk to me about it. We want to do something about DACA, get it solved after all these years. The Democrats are being totally unresponsive. They don't want to do anything about DACA, I'm telling you, and it's very possible that DACA won't happen, and it's not because of the Republicans, it's because of the Democrats.
The Supreme Court decision not to review DACA lower court ruling means that the issue now lies in the hands of Congress.
Government statistics show that for every person qualifying for DACA protection, 3 people don't qualify. Valley View News reporter Tomas Rodriguez spoke to a woman who lost her chance for DACA protection because of her immigration reform activities.
Lisbeth Mateo has been an activist for undocumented immigrants since college. She graduated from CSUN and Santa Clara Law School as an undocumented student. Mateo recently opened her own practice less than 1 year after being sworn in as an attorney. She says that all her work has prepared her for this moment.
This is the beginning of everything that I've worked for. All my activism, all my work over the years, it was necessary to get me to this point. I always wanted to be an attorney.
The Dream 9 demanded re-entry to the U.S. from Mexico. In 2013, Mateo traveled to Mexico with 2 other activists where they met with 6 dreamers who had been deported or forced to leave the country. They finally reunited with their families in the U.S. after spending weeks at a detention center in Phoenix. Mateo lost her DACA eligibility because of the trip, and she has no legal protection, but she says undocumented immigrants like her can still find ways to succeed.
Over the years, I've learned that there's ways to thrive and there's ways to win, even if you don't have legal status. And so that's essentially what I'm trying to do here.
Mateo is an undocumented lawyer handling immigration, workers' compensation, and personal injury cases. She faced several obstacles along the way, but with support from her family, friends, and the community, she was able to open her own practice.
They're the ones that are making this a reality. They're the ones that have basically given me the tools and the confidence to say, yes, I'm gonna open this practice and I'm gonna go for it, even if there's a lot of uncertainty in the future.
Mateo also helps out her community by offering free consultations on immigration cases. In Wilmington, I'm Thomas Rodriguez for Valley View News.
The stress of being deported by ICE isn't just a problem for DACA recipients. It's also for many undocumented immigrants who have led successful lives in the U.S. I spoke to a local business owner who was just deported to Tijuana and is struggling to keep his family together. Julian Montañez, a San Fernando Valley resident, was deported to Mexico last week. He owns an air conditioning business and supports his family. He was caught numerous times for traffic violations and felonies. After visiting his parole officer, he was caught by ICE. He says if he tries to come back, he risks jail time.
Being away from my family, not being able to see him, every day, now we're gonna have to try to find a way so they can come and see me.
Montañez now lives in Tijuana, leaving behind a wife, 4 children, and grandkids. This is his first time in Mexico in 30 years. He always told his wife he wanted to go back one day. Now, he and his wife want to reunite and start a life in Ensenada together.
I feel lost, without him. And all my children are adults, and now it's time for me and him to be together and, enjoy our time alone and with grandchildren.
Montañez and his family are devout Christians who were active church members. He was a guitarist for the church and performed every Sunday. His daughter intends to keep his achievements alive. She works hard to keep his air conditioning business running. They say everything will be okay.
He wanted to prepare us for if this ever happened. We always knew it was a possibility, but we weren't prepared at all. We don't know where to go from here. We're kind of waiting for his direction.
Julian and his family aren't the only people affected by this. It's happening to people nationwide. In San Fernando, I'm Corinne Hafuda for Valley View News.
DACA protections apply to people from many parts of the world. It covers young people from Latin America, Mexico, China, parts of Europe, and Africa. I spoke to some CSUN students from Africa who were affected by DACA. The Pew Research Center says over 4,000 people from Africa living in the U.S. are DACA recipients, many of whom are students. Cal State University Northridge graduate Umu Rogers from Sierra Leone, Africa, says her dad is the reason she's here.
It was always a thing that we would come here for college, and so my dad applied for the diversity visa, which is something that America does in different countries.
Students like Rogers are hardly recognized when it comes to DACA because the southern part of the U.S. borders Mexico. Mexican immigration is more of a focus. But CSUN professor Amy Glocky says people from several backgrounds face the threat of deportation.
I have quite a few DACA students. Most of mine are Latino students, but still we have some African students as well. And the idea is you see them be fearful. You see them fear against immigration. You're being taken away because of immigration.
While the government might be making it hard for these students to get an education in this country, Professor Glocky says they should never give up.
Stay and fight. You deserve an education. You deserve to be here, and we got your back.
CSUN student Helena McConan goes from the U.S. to Ethiopia every 6 months to renew her green card. She said the Ethiopian government restricted her from studying what she wanted. In America, she can study whatever she wants.
I had to take the chance to come here because, I want to study what I want, what I truly feel passionate about.
Both Rogers and McConan found their passion. They want to work in the medical field.
I hope to pursue global health in the long run.
I want to go to med school, so medicine is my passion.
After the break, we'll tell you what changes are being proposed following the deadliest high school shooting in modern U.S. history.
And an actor in one of the most popular films to date opens up about his immigration status.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
I came to CSUN to learn. I came to CSUN to grow. I came to CSUN to prepare. I learned to question, to answer, to encourage. I grew as a mentor, an ally, an advocate. I left CSUN prepared to uplift and embolden, prepared to challenge and inspire, prepared to teach.
I'm Rebecca Milwaukee, and I'm a Matador.
You made her college years possible, opening that education savings account when she was little, spearheading campus tours, and deciphering financial aid. If you can ace planning for college, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
Florida Governor Rick Scott introduced a new plan to beef up the state's gun laws. He wants to raise the age for purchasing a gun to 21. He wants better background checks. He also plans to spend $500 million on mental health services. Public school security would also be improved. The governor made the proposals after the high school shootings in Parkland. 17 students and teachers were killed in the mass shooting. The suspect used an AR-15 assault rifle, which he bought legally.
It's interesting, actually. There was a dreamer in the recent film Black Panther. Here's our entertainment reporter, Tori Isaac, with more.
Thanks, Corinne. There sure was. He's in one of the biggest films in the world right now, and he's a dreamer. Bambaja Bamba stars in Black Panther. He's one of nearly 1 million young immigrants protected under DACA. The 36-year-old is now speaking out about his status. He says he wants to use his voice as an actor to humanize the issue and put a face to who dreamers really are. He says he couldn't stay quiet when President Trump said he would let DACA end. Bamba has appeared in dozens of movies and TV shows, including Grey's Anatomy and Suicide Squad. One of Bill Cosby's daughters has died. Enza Cosby was 44 years old. She died from renal disease, which impairs kidney function. She was her father's biggest supporter during his sexual assault trial, insisting he was innocent. It ended in a mistrial, but Cosby is scheduled to be retried next month. The Weinstein Company is reportedly headed for bankruptcy. The film studio was supposed to be in talks with investors to close a $500 million financing deal, but that deal fell through. Now, apparently, the studio can't stay afloat without the investment. The New York Attorney General filed a lawsuit against Harvey Weinstein earlier this month. He's accused of multiple sexual harassment counts. Weinstein denied the accusations. That's all your entertainment news. Back to you.
Coming up, we learn about the connection between immigration and some of the athletes who represented the U.S. in the Winter Olympics.
Plus, a look at how dreamers impact America.
Hey there, Mrs. Carter. You can earn over 10% on your money if you deposit your savings into our investment
lucky
program.
sweepstakes winner.
Mrs.
Just
Carter,
enter your
Grandma,
contact information and your winnings will
Grandma,
be
it's me. Please help me. I'm stuck in Ohio and my wallet was stolen. Please send me some money so I can get home.
Millions of people, especially seniors, are targeted every day by an array of fraudulent scams through online technology. Please be aware.
Ms. Stevens, I just wiped malware off our system. People have got to stop clicking unsolicited email links and downloading free software unless it's from a trusted source.
Sounds great.
We need a data backup plan in a separate location in case we get hacked.
We need to focus on making profits, not spending them.
Learn to protect yourself from ransomware. If you become a victim, contact your local FBI office.
I came to CSUN to learn. I came to CSUN to grow. I came to CSUN to prepare. I learned to ask, to analyze, to communicate. I grew as a writer, a thinker, a citizen. I left CSUN prepared to participate, prepared to contribute, prepared to lead.
Aloha, I'm Linda Lingle, and I'm a matador.
I've come up with a family emergency plan.
What is it?
It's difficult to talk about, so I'm not telling you.
I'm so glad I won't have to remember anything.
Me too.
Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Today's sports has its own immigration story involving Olympians. Andrena, what do you got for us?
Yes, thank you. So, Team USA makes America great. While the Winter Olympics are over, the legacies continue. Figure skater Mirai Nagasu became the first American woman to land the triple axel in Olympic competition. Nagasu was born in the U.S., her parents are Japanese immigrants. And snowboarder Chloe Kim took home the gold in the halfpipe competition. She's just 17 years old. She's also the daughter of immigrant parents. Maim Baini became the first Ghanaian American woman to compete on the speed skating team. Binding migrated from Ghana when she was 5 years old. The U.S. took home a total of 23 medals. Immigration makes America great. And the decision is final. After a unanimous vote, the IOC decided Russia's Olympic suspension won't be lifted. The Russian Olympians couldn't attend the closing ceremonies under the Russian flag.
2 Olympic athletes from Russia failed doping tests here in Pyeongchang. This was hugely disappointing and, in addition to other considerations, prevented the IOC from even considering lifting the suspension for the closing ceremony.
Russia's Olympic ban remains in place for the foreseeable future. Saturday, the Warriors took home the win over Oklahoma City, but not without some controversy. Golden State center Zaza Pachulia was accused of intentionally trying to hurt Thunder guard Russell Westbrook. Pachulia landed on Westbrook's leg after a clash between Westbrook and Young late in the third quarter. Pachulia is no stranger to these allegations. In the past, he's been accused of targeting key players on opposing teams. The game ended 112-80. That's all for sports. I'm Andrea Serrano. Back to you.
Well, Corinne, it looks like our access to the internet is going to be limited sometime soon. What are we going to do about that?
I don't know, but here's our social media tech and health reporter, Lauren Turner-Dunn. She'll tell us more.
Thank you. The FCC's repeal of net neutrality is scheduled to take effect April 23rd. The Republican-led FCC panel voted to end former President Obama's net neutrality protections. The repeal will allow the FCC to block or slow down access to online content. States, consumer advocacy groups, and tech companies like Mozilla are protesting. Some filed lawsuits last month to stop the repeal. Surviving an active shooter on school grounds is possible because of 17-year-old Justin Rivers' invention. To prevent shooters from coming into classrooms, the Wisconsin student created a device called Just In Case.
All these kids in a building who have nothing but a door to keep them safe.
Rivers struggled with the idea, but he used his welding skills to potentially save lives.
It's kind of hard at first, but once I kind of got onto one part, then it was like, okay, that makes sense.
Rivers made the device for every classroom and conference room at his high school. He's also presented it to the school board. It now sells for $95. That's all I have for social media, health, and tech. Back to you.
And finally, a look at how DACA recipients impact the nation. DACA deportations could cost the U.S. nearly $400 billion in 10 years. That's according to Center for American Progress. DACA currently protects more than 800,000 young immigrants. 91% of them are employed, according to pro-immigration reform group FWD. Ending the program would mean 30,000 people a month would lose work permits. California's economy would take the biggest hit. The economy would lose $11.3 billion a year without them.
Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Valley View News. I'm Corinne Hafuda.
And I'm Cameron Parrish. Remember, for news any time of day, go to our website, thesundial.csun.edu. We'll see you next week.